I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and it's part 2 of a dogfight battle between the Samsung ATIV Neo and the HTC 8XT. Which one's the best Windows Phone 8 device on Sprint? Let's find out in part 2 of the dogfight battle. Part 2 of a dogfight battle between the Samsung ATIV Neo and the HTC 8XT, both new Windows Phone 8 devices on Sprint, the nation's third largest wireless carrier. Previously out of the Windows Phone 8 game, they're back in a major way with 2 new devices this summer. We're taking a look to see how they compare versus not only Android devices on Sprint, but just between themselves, between what Samsung's added to the ATIV Neo and what HTC has added to its 8XT. Before we get too far into that, I'm going to take a step back and thank our partners at Best Buy Mobile because they give us free phones like this that we give to you for free on the site at instantwin.phonedog.com. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. It's part of their walkout working program. They'll get everything set up. All these live tiles you see, they'll make sure everything's good to go for the way you want it at Best Buy Mobile. So let's dive right in. I promised from part 1 that I'd start part 2 by talking about some of the differences between these two devices because they're both running Windows Phone 8. At first glance, they look very similar, but there actually are quite a few software differences between these two devices. Samsung's added some nice stuff here. HTC's added some nice stuff here. So I'm just going to quickly run through some of those differences. First of all, you've got your respective stores down here in the Microsoft Store. We'll go into the App Store and take a look, and you can see Sprint apps in Samsung Zone, and then you can see HTC apps here as well. So I'll dive into Samsung Zone, and you can see HTC apps also. Most of these are downloaded on the device. You've got Flashlight, for example, Photo Enhancer, Converter, and more. And then over here, Mini Diary, Live Wallpaper. A bunch of these are already downloaded, but you can see that these ecosystems are beginning to take place on Windows Phone 8 here. And most of these, like I said, are downloaded already, and we'll take a look at both of those respectively. So app folder is one of my favorites. If you like app folders on Android, you wish they were on Windows Phone 8, you can take advantage of it over here. For example, I can say new apps, and I can say, you know what have I downloaded recently? Let's say app folder, American Airlines, Battery, and Facebook are my four applications that I downloaded most recently. Well, it'll create a folder for me, and I can customize it in typical live tile fashion. I can make it large, I can make it small, I can make it medium size if I want to. And I can come in here and it creates a folder much like Android where I can access all of these different applications, and I can change that, rename, move, and delete as I see fit. So really a nice kind of Android-y feature there. If you miss a couple of things about Android, that might be a good option for you to download. Then continuing to scroll down through here, Live Wallpaper is another one of my favorites you see on the ATIV Neo. I can come in here and say, I can select Live Wallpaper first of all, and then I can come in here and say, you know what, got a bunch of pictures in here that I want to make as my live wallpaper, and I can select up to 100 different photos, and then when I turn the device off and back on, it'll process this. And then when I turn it off and back on, it'll rotate through those pictures. Now, Windows Phone 8 within itself has gotten better at this recently, and I'll show you on the HTC 8XT here in just a second, but you'll see these pictures will rotate on the lock screen. So speaking of lock screen, diving over here to the HTC 8XT, and again, I know I'm going through this pretty quickly, but I don't have a whole lot of video time, so I want to make sure we cover all this as quickly as possible. So lock screen, for example, and I can come into the lock screen, I can open, actually I did not mean to open that application. Let's go back here. And let's go to lock screen and let's click right here where it says background. So on the HTC device, I have a couple of different options. I have photo, I have Bing, and I have HTC. So selecting Bing, I have that over here as well. We'll just compare apples to apples here really quickly. Lock screen, and let's go to Live Wallpaper. So that's what I just selected. As you can see, I can do Facebook as an option if I had Facebook installed on the HTC 8XT, and it would run through my various pictures that I've uploaded on Facebook. Photo as well, being here as well on both devices, but you can see the differences here. HTC selected over here, so when I turn it off and back on, it should give me a weather update for Dallas. And you can see right here, Dallas, and actually a pretty cool day today, 95 degrees. You can see the weather here, sunny, and you can see that as the background, and I can swipe it right up. So that's a cool little HTC application right there that you can use. And again, talking about the customizations between these two devices, you can really start to see that even though on the surface they look the same, there are quite a few differences in the software that make these pretty unique. Now let's talk about the camera. It brings me to Manga Camera over here, and we'll talk about that. You got Flashlight over on the 8XT, and then on the Converter over here, we'll go in here and you can select, for example, currency, and we can say, go to just a couple of different ones here. We'll go to the Vietnam Dong, and then I can come in here and say Brunei dollar, and I'll say, you know what, 25 of those equals how many dongs? 66.29 Vietnam Dong over there. So you've got that as an option as well. Currency is particularly useful for somebody like me that travels a lot. I love having a currency converter right there on the phone. and I've got that and flashlight, and then make more space as well, which is an HTC application. But diving quickly into the cameras here so we can take a look at the differences. They've gotten better over recent months on Windows Phone. Got flash turned off, as you can see right there. Gotten better in recent months on Windows Phone with allowing them to customize much more. So right now out of the box, you can see both of these have the stock Windows Phone 8 camera application. Well, I can jump right here into lenses and I can find more. So for example, I have an HTC camera option. And then over here I have shooting modes, which is very similar to Samsung's camera options on their Android devices. And just by clicking here, you can see that this automatically looks almost identical to what you would see on an HTC Android device. You can't use the flash right now because the battery's too low, but got the option to customize the picture quality here, customize the different colors as well. I can scroll up through here and do grayscale, I can do sepia, I can do regular, and it's an 8 megapixel camera, so I can swipe away from that, and I've got access to my gallery and my camera as well. So just by clicking right here, I can take a bunch of different pictures and select between those. And then over here as well, I've got kind of a Samsung-y look and feel like on the Android devices with auto, continuous, beauty modes, HDR, and more. And then I've got my settings within this where I can do ISO, effects, contrast, saturation, and more. So for example, just bringing over the Moto Skip here is a quick example. Focusing on that, snap a picture, and then there's the picture it is taken. Let's back up really quickly here and do one with this. And I'll go ahead and focus it in. Boom. And so both of these are awesome cameras. I really can't give you a difference between the two. They're both 8 megapixel cameras, and I find them both to be pretty neat and pretty neat. I just said that on camera. Pretty useful all around. I don't really see a huge difference between the camera quality over here. I think it's going to depend on what lenses you prefer. Perhaps you're coming from an Android phone on HTC, you like the camera app, versus coming from one of the Samsung devices, Galaxy S3, maybe you're used to the shooting modes over there. And then you can always, of course, opt back for the Windows Phone camera application if you so desire. So I can go right back in here and have access to those, flash, front-facing cameras, and more. So similar in a couple of different ways, different in the shooting mode options, which I think is something that if you're a big camera buff, you're going to play, or it's going to play a role in your buying decision. So we'll do quickly speedtest.net here, speedtest.net, and we'll hit OK. And we'll load these up and take a look. 4G LTE on Sprint on both of these devices. And so we're going to load them up and see what the download and the upload speeds are on the 8XT and on the ATIV S Neo. This one's taking a little bit longer. Let's see, ready to go. Ready to rock. Let's see, Dallas, Texas, loading up on both of these. And I should point out, Sprint's 4G LTE has gotten far better in my office. Still not quite up to par as what I see in uptown and downtown when I'm around there and in different parts of the metro. Fort Worth, actually pretty decent as well. Or excuse me, not Fort Worth, North Dallas, pretty decent as well. But you can see this connection differences here. Download speed, 3.49 megabits per second over on the ATIV S Neo, 0.35 megabits per second over here. And it looks like, make sure both of these are on 4G LTE. You can see pretty decent speeds over here in comparison to what we were seeing before. This is actually kind of a comparison to what we were seeing before. Take it with a grain of salt. These are just hitting the cell site randomly. It may be a random fluke, so don't take too much of a, I should point this out. There we go, 4.6 megabits per second. Don't take too much away from this. It's just a simple network test, and you can see both of these are running on 4G right now in their respective areas. So pretty decent devices all around. I'm just happy to see Windows Phone 8 on the nation's third largest wireless carrier. As for anything else, just like it always is, depends on what's most important to you. If you want an HD display, go here. If you want micro SD card slot for expandable storage, go here. If you like the Samsung ecosystem, and that's very important to you, go here. You've got Boom Sound over here. You've got Beats Audio over here as well. But all in all, really nice package here, and it's $50 cheaper as well. That said, you sacrifice, you go down to 8 gigabytes of internal storage, go down to a smaller display that's not HD. You do get the Sprint goodies out of the box on both units, but still you are dropping, at least in terms of quality, on some aspects. That said, a winner has to be declared. The winner of the Dogfight, as you would expect, is the ATIV S Neo, but I think like anything else, it's going to depend on what you use your device for. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for more. I'm on Twitter at PhoneDog_Aaron. I'm on Facebook at Facebook.com/HiAaronBaker. Let me know which Windows Phone 8 device you would go with, and more importantly, why. Love to hear from you on social media. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.